No, Sally here, Tanner here, Wolfersberger, Tony here, Rob
Here.
started here. First thing is, we will go to public comment. And if you are here for public comment, be sure that you sign in the back, with your name and address. And then, to say you want to speak, you have, 5 minutes to speak, for public comment. If you're on the agenda, you can, wait till it comes, to your spot here on the agenda to speak, but, anyway, and then I have the attorney here tonight too. I've been trying to, have him speak a little bit about public comment, just to, as a reminder for all of us as far as how our public comment will go. So,
Sure.
Mark?
Yeah, well, so, you run the meeting, you're the mayor, it's your job to keep us on task and get us through that. These folks are members of the public and they've got the right to say their piece. So that's why you have public comment at the beginning of the meeting. And anybody can say whatever they want, as long as it's not scary or dangerous. For up to 5 minutes, and then after that, you can extend it if you want to, but you don't have to. Go on the next person. When you're running the meeting, you're in charge of the meeting, so you point who gets to talk next, and you get to make all the decisions as the mayor, because you're the big cheese. If you decide that you want to let somebody from the public speak on something, or you have a question, you get to do that. But ultimately, the mayor is the control valve for that. So ideally, what a trustee would do is say, Madam Mayor, can I ask a question of so-and-so? And then first you would say yes. So the reason it gets important is when you get more people than you're used to at a meeting, you're trying to get through your meeting, it's helpful to have things kind of organized and maybe more by the book than maybe when you hardly get everybody. So that way everybody gets a chance to get heard, you still get the business done, and you get home before midnight. So I don't think I missed anything, and if there's a question, just toss that in.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You have the new trustees and everything too, so I think just to kind of give everybody an update on some of all of it. So, anyway, so, we will move on to public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? If so, something we're here to talk about. So, and be sure that you can sign in.
Hi, Cindy.
Okay.
Hi, Larry Wigger, and I was just wanting to comment on the hotel motel thing, and I was wondering when the study was gonna be getting done. Is there a date for that?
Actually, we have a draft, so, will they, you know, when it'll be completed for public?
It's in draft form, hasn't been certified yet for, our user distribution.
Okay, and then you guys, okay, it's getting close, and that's when the questions will come about from you guys to them, or how's that gonna work?
It's basically,
What?
it's basically a document which will show if our market can support a hotel or not. And hotels utilize that data before they make a multi-million-dollar investment in a community to know, if it's worth their time or not. So that's what the study to do.
Okay, does that include like the roads to get to the motel, or where the motel is actually gonna be?
There's different locations.
There's different locations that they're looking at.
Yeah.
Because I'm just looking at the road situation, because I've heard it's over by Monaco, over down by the highway, and things like that, which those roads would have to be done, you know, things like that. Is that gonna be like our expense? That's what I'm saying, do I have to wait for down the road what the expenses of the city's gonna be to put that?
We'll probably wait till we get.
That's what, yeah.
I mean, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse there, but I mean, if we're fortunate enough to get a hotel, then at that point, I'm sure all those things will be dealt with.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because that's why I was asking, we wait till the report comes back,
Yeah, I can.
and the date for that.
Well, I mean, even if the report comes back and says, yeah, you're, you know, qualified to have a hotel, or you have a need for a hotel or whatever, then at that point, then we still gotta get the hotel. This is just part one of it. So,
Because I was
if
in
we
this,
can have one, then the begging begins.
oh, so I thought a hotel firm came to you guys, or no?
We should, I mean, Joe probably should answer. I mean, we had some people show interest.
So we've been actively trying to take a step forward in economic development. And we've had conversations with hotel chains, and they are not interested in a market until the market or the community provides this type of data. So they have other potential locations that they provide that data to them. And so that they require that, as they're basically the ones that, you know, hold the cards basically, and these more rural type of systems. So like a good example of that is Arcola had to do something similar relatively recently with Best Western.
Mhm.
So, you know, whenever you're kind of an unproven market, you have to show that you have the ability to hold.
So actually, right now, I'm talking to Heather again, like he was saying, and I'm, you know, I have to talk to before him. So let's just wait till the study's done, and then we go from there, right?
I said, yeah, once you get the study done, we'll know that if it's even a piece of the market that happens.
That's what I'm asking.
And then once, you know, if we are, then of course, then you have to be fortunate enough to have a hotel that really wants to come here and invest into our community. So, and so, yeah, we're in the early stages of figuring out, what our potential is for, like Joe said, we're looking at economic development, just to help our tax base in the community, so that, you know, to fix those streets and to fix the things that we need.
Well,
to fix.
water, sewage, you know what, there's a
Yeah.
lot on board on the
Yeah.
hotel than just the resident.
It's nice to have a larger tax base so that you can help with those things and not be just on the taxpayers off of your real tax and everything. So, if you have a larger, tax base as far as the economic development, of course, that's always a plus in a community. So that's what we're trying to do.
All right, that's fine, I just didn't know where we were sitting, waiting for the study and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just, what I've been here for, we discussed part of this, but, so the study comes back and it goes, no, you know, you guys
this probably isn't a good idea, that we wasted $15,000 that we could have used for a parks or something else. And people, I don't think anybody I've really talked to in the community is really that interested in that hotel.
That money's gone. We can beat this.
I know, but like,
The money's gone.
I'm trying to avoid this from happening again, that's why I want to put
I
my,
don't think we're gonna do another study in the next 10 years.
we'll think about it next time. Please.
Sometimes you have to spend money to make money.
Right.
A lot of economic development is, years ago, when, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many years ago, we did a similar type study, because it was before Gas Flash came to town. And to entertain another gas station, we did a market study. It was very similar to the hotel study, and it did a study, and we hired regional planning to do the study for us. Same thing, it looked at your community, it looked at your population, who lives in your community, what type of businesses you have, what you don't have, what you're weak in, what areas that would attract certain businesses to your community. And those are the things that businesses look at before they come into your community. And they want to see if it's a marketable community to come and invest in the community. If you don't do those types of studies.
In fact, when our economic development person, consultant that we hired, along with Joe, went up to the very first ever that the village has ever done, to my knowledge, and I've been on the board for 20 years now, that we have never been to one of these shows where they have all the different types of businesses that may or may not be interested in coming to your community. And we went out there, they prepared for it, had a packet of what our community is, to go out and say, hey, look, we would love to have some new businesses come to our community. You can't just sit here and wait for them to come to you. You sometimes have to go to them and sell your community to them. Because one of the first things that they got up there, and
Talking to some of these various different businesses, they're like, we've never heard of you guys before. Where are you at? And when they found out we were on the interstate 74 with high volume traffic and 150, who has a lot of traffic also, their first question is, what's wrong with your community? Well, there's nothing wrong with our community. It's just that we've never done that before. We've never had that approach. We've never gone out. We've always had a more of a let's wait till they come to us approach. And in this economy, you can't do that. You have to be proactive to have people come to you. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to better community, to help our tax base, to help us out in all of the projects that we have, parks, recreation, streets,
alley sidewalks. So sometimes you have to pay money to get those things to happen. So
On that comment, does that study to the public when it comes in to the residents?
it will be,
Okay,
so. And the old study that we had years ago, we still have copies of it around too. So,
well, I'm just saying, is it open to the public to come read and?
yes,
And read it for themselves instead of
yes.
going with it?
A lot of these types of hotels seek investors too. So whenever they go and do site mapping, so there very well could be interests of community members that want to invest in that as well. So it's one of those things that we want that information out.
Okay, so that's.
Is there anyone else for the public forum? Stephen? If not, we will move on, Dormy. So, first thing, on our agenda is our consent agenda, and we have the approval of the bills. Minutes will be, at our next meeting. So basically everything that's in your consent agenda, bills, report, and investment recommendations. Is there any questions in regards to those items? If not,
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda unless the meeting minutes that will be approved next week or next time.
I was second it.
Page? Yes. Valley?
Yes.
Painter?
Yes.
Cummings?
Yes.
Rapp?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, on down to new business. I am going to, we didn't get on the agenda, but there's nothing to approve on this. It's just basically a quick presentation. I have Reg here, who, he is our consultant with our electrical aggregation program. And, thank you, Debbie. Sorry. Sorry, sneaking out. Reg works with us, and we have how many years now done?
10 or 11.
Yeah. We started doing the electrical aggregation, back when BJ was the mayor, and, he watches the markets for us and tries to help us to get, cheaper rates of electricity, supplied for our community. And, so how that normally works is he watches the markets and then we try to get the lowest possible bid on our electricity. The one thing that we've always worked with our contracts here with our electrical aggregation programs is that everyone in the community also has the option to opt out if they have their own electricity supplier that they would prefer to stay with, or if you just want to stay with Ameren, you like Ameren better, or you have that option to opt out. So we have not had a contract. Well, we did not have a contract, and then we had a contract. This past year, Ameren, there was some things that occurred that Ameren's actually dropped just a tad bit lower than what our contract was. So I know we put the word out so that the residents could opt out if they wanted to. It was a matter of saving a little bit of money. But anyway, Rex is here to explain there's something different going on with that program. Currently, we have a bid for home field that looks very attractive. So anyway, I will turn it over to Reg to explain how that works.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. We made a proposal to the mayor. By the way, I'm Reg Ankrum. I'm your consultant for electric aggregation. My company is Cymec Energy, and we've had the privilege of serving St. Joseph for 10 or 11 years now. And we made a proposal to the mayor not long ago to help us deal with the volatility, significant volatility that's arisen in the electric market. A few years ago, it was so volatile, the lowest price we could find in the market was like 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And the market itself was at 17, 18 cents per kilowatt hour. And so we made the recommendation to all of our towns, we serve 51 of them, that we pause the program for a year. And St. Joseph did that. When we rebid, we asked in our request for proposal, all the utilities who we normally would go to for electric supply, if they had any ideas for dealing with the market and that volatility, please let us know and let's work together on that. We got one response, and that was from Homefield, which won the contract last time. And what we did, we took one of the three major issues in the rate, the capacity, which is basically the recovery of the invested cost in generating. I don't want to get this too complicated, but anyway, the result was we were able to get a price of 8.6 cents a kilowatt hour. That's basically what Ameren is right now during the non-summer months. And the way we did it was such that the other pricing at that time was as much as 3 cents higher, 11.9 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour, which communities were taking. And we were able, with your group, 16 communities, got a price of 8.6. So we saw working with Homefield and using that action actually reduced our rates. One thing we need flexibility with, we'd like to have, and this was our proposal to the mayor, was that we would like to be more nimble or flexible in the market. The way we get a price is we'll start planning, looking for a particular period where we have no heating or cooling degree days, where natural gas is being stored instead of used. And those and other factors we look for that tend to diminish or reduce the price of electricity. We've been successful at it until a couple of years ago, when a major risk that we had not foreseen, which was a payment for the state subsidized greatly a utility in Illinois. When that was pulled out, our prices were fixed and Ameren's price went down. And that's what we dealt with in the first dealing with Homefield. In the RFP we put out for the current contract, we asked our suppliers to do the same thing. Homefield was the only one that came back to us with a recommendation. And that was that we partner with them and have the ability to go to the market whenever we see a good price on the market. It's not just that Reg Ankrum and Simac are picking what they believe will be the best period to get a good rate. This will allow us to work with men and women who are doing this on an hourly basis. The rates of electricity change on an hour-to-hour basis. And if we know when we get a price, it expires at the end of the day. The suppliers actually hold that price for the day. So what this does, it does not change the contract, which actually begins in June. And our contract is 8.1 cents plus whatever that capacity charge will be. So we expect it'll be lower than the 8.6 cents of Ameren or our current contract. But it will allow people still to opt out. All the other aspects of the existing contract remain exactly the same. Basically, what this proposal does is give us the opportunity to act in a more nimble way in your behalf. And so the mayor wanted me to make sure that I explained that to you and answer any questions you might have so that we can get that started. I can tell you there are 16 communities in your group. The group St. Joseph is in, and we have 10 signed up, and I'm still working the other 6, including St. Joseph. So, Madam Mayor, I'll answer any questions if that works for you.
Yep. I just wanted to, we have newer trustees, and so this is kind of new for them too. So anyway, do you have any questions for Reg that he can ask? I know the electrical aggregation seems very complicated to a lot of people. If you haven't been around it, you kind of know what it is. I know every year a contract comes out, and then I know last year when Ameren went a little bit lower, I know trying to explain it to everybody to say, hey, you have the option to opt out. You might save a little bit of money because Ameren did go a little bit lower than what our current contract was. And trying to explain that to people, and of course the opt-in, opt-out thing gets very confusing. So I just thought it would be helpful to have Reg come in and kind of help explain that to everybody and give everyone an opportunity to ask a question.
Got a question. Is it gonna be, if we go into the rate now, it's still gonna be a fixed rate, it's not gonna be fluctuational for
No,
season?
it is a fixed rate.
Okay, so you don't have the seasonal fluctuation like you would have there.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be sure that didn't change.
Absolutely. Ameren does have four rates. It has a 2-tiered rate for summer, and that's the 4 summertime months. And a rate which we're in right now for the other 8 months, which was 8.66 cents a kilowatt hour. We're 8.6. We're also 8.66. So we're right at Ameren's rate. But then they also have the ability to adjust rates in June and December. So there's an opportunity. They don't always use it, but they have 4 times a year.
But that wouldn't affect our rate. Right?
That's correct.
Okay.
This program assures people a flat rate. That was one
I
of
just
the
want to be sure it didn't change.
good questions. Okay.
One of the reasons why the village decided to do this several years ago, I know BJ and I was approached by some company when it first started coming about it, and BJ's like, here, you can take this on. I think BJ didn't want to mess with it, but anyway, so I went to several different meetings, and the one thing that I felt was important for the community was at that time, you know, you had all these electrical aggregation companies knocking on everybody's doors, making phone calls, and some of them weren't on the up and up, you might say, and was getting people to sign on to contracts, and then we get tied into them and then jack up the prices 6 months later, and then it would cost them to get out of the contracts. And I have a soft spot, and my senior citizens in the community are very important to me, and so I meet with them regularly once a month with our local senior citizens, and I know they were the most vulnerable to that approach. And you know, so I always try to explain to them, and I thought this is an easy way for our community to make sure that, now, of course, if you want to subject yourself to listen to all those and pick on your own, you're more than welcome to do that. So you could just opt out. But if you want us to do that for you, we work with Reg to try to do that, to make it a little easier for our residents to And for all the years that we've done it, all except for last year, we've always had better rates than Ameren. So last year was the only year that it changed. And I said, it was a minor.
The council in its wisdom early on, when it passed the program, after the voters passed a referendum to adopt it or to authorize the council to adopt it, wanted us to be sure that people always had a way to get the best price on the market. That's what the opt-out does, and people can jump from one to another. There are limitations on that. I don't want to get it real complicated, but our job as your employee, we are your consultant, is to assure that we get the best price possible on the market. And this proposal, we think, will help us in that regard. We won't be locked in to a particular time in the year. We've gotten good contracts even in the dead of winter in December, so it can be done. We don't look at that time ourselves because there's more risk involved when we have higher usage rates are higher at that time.
Okay, thank you very much, Rich.
Good, and you can just email that back to me. Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the time. Thank you, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right, thank you. Back to our new business here. First thing on our agenda is we have a presentation this evening from Republic Trash Service. And I have Tony's.
Yep.
Tony, are you gonna do the presentation?
I'll actually let Dan start off with this.
I just want to do a brief introduction. Dan Winters, the general manager with Republic. I'm over at Bloomington Market, Champaign, Urbana, and Danville. And I want to thank Mrs. Apple and her son Jason for attending. We purchased Apple. I was deeply involved in that acquisition. Probably should have been here sooner, but when Tony said he was coming, I just wanted to talk. We are a corporate company. I've been here 45 years. I started in 1979 on a bulldozer, been general manager since 1990. I think Jason is going to make a career here. I hope I'm not speaking for him. Been a great asset, great community.
He was walking my alley earlier.
Yeah. Okay, now we're in trouble. But anyway, I want to thank that. And one other thing before I turn over to Tony, our municipal, Gary Grant, our ops manager, 13 years, Tony Moore, 6 years as municipal manager. And how many years have you been doing this, Jason? A lot, okay.
18.
18, okay. Well, the other plug, I just kind of want to say that what's going on with your trash? We had some exciting press releases last week at our Danville landfill, Brickyard, where this is going. We partnered with a company, Amorisco, that has invested $25 million in a facility to convert our methane into natural gas grade product that is being fed to the Ameren transport line throughout the United States. So we'll be having an open house in May. You guys will get an invite, but it just, I'm a legacy landfill guy. It's just nice to hear a return from a landfill, cutting down on that CO2 emission. We were just flaming it in the air, and we're investing in this cleanup process to make it that great. We do have a press release. It speaks basically on CNG trucks, and we want to compute it to the homes we can heat in that. So our engineers are working on that as we speak. But anyway, Republic's a great company. We got a lot of tenure here. We want to keep servicing, and I'm going to turn over to Tony.
Yeah. So, just to kind of touch on that, sustainability is something that we're definitely all about, right? So recycling, what do we do even with anything that we can use? Talking about that natural gas. So we actually lead the industry in America in sustainability. We have been in the top 100 for years upon years upon years. It's something that we take very seriously. So as far as the industry itself, we're second in the MSW, or trash, if you will. So we just wanted to take an opportunity to come in here and talk to the board. I got to tell you, I have stopped by this place so many times in 6 years and handed my card, and everybody's the same. They're like, well, we're not gonna put Apple out of business. We don't, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. So it's a whole. I told him, I was like, I can't believe we got a board meeting. We've never got a board meeting.
Well, and part of it, because I remember talking to you once or twice.
Yeah.
And that was exactly my it is like, we've had Apple, they spoiled us, and we always appreciate their business, and so unfortunately or fortunately, because they retired, we now are having these conversations, so.
Well, we really do want to be part of it. You know, we've tried to do all we can, you know, starting off with one, not touching any rates, right? So whatever we took from Apple, we made sure that we locked those rates for at least a year, right? Because we didn't want everybody to be like, oh, they took over, now they're just trying to gouge us. Well, that's not what we want to do at all. We want to be part of the community. The other part of that is how much we are investing already into your community. If you drove around town after this weekend, you probably saw a lot of nice blue containers, right, at businesses and things like that. We really want to upgrade the image here, right, just to help everything look clean, look modern. Same with your residents, you know, we went through and gave everybody a container. I know not everybody was happy with those containers, but the old way of, you know, when Apple did it, they had a rear load truck, guys were dumping it. I'm sure he can tell you now, after the truck we're training them in, that's long gone. We want to keep them in the cab, so those containers are part of that. The reason we want to keep them in the cab is we actually lead the industry in safety too. That's good for us. That means we keep our guys safe in the truck. They get to go home every day without injury, illness, and come back to work. It's also good for every community that we partner with, because where it's safety is number one for us, we're portraying that every time we're in your community, right? We always want to make sure that we leave your community the same way we left it, except we're taking the trash with us. As far as the municipal contract, I think it's a great thing to talk about, and it's something that we would definitely be open to having conversations with. I think right now you guys have a great market, and again, like I said, we do make sure your residential pricing is locked at the moment. Municipal contract would actually tie that in a little bit even more to not lock those rates, but show what your price increases would be year over year for the lifetime of the agreement. The other good thing about Republic is I will hands down give you every reference to every municipality that I am a part of, to let them tell you how good of a company we are, you know, as we partner with our communities. I'm not trying to brag, it's just what we do. We really care about every community we're with. You know, there's Monticello's getting ready to throw a big hog fest this summer. If you guys haven't heard about it, you should look for it. It looks cool. They came to us and said, hey, you guys donate to this. Absolutely, we will. We want to be part of your community. You know, every community that we go to, we do cleanups with. We maintain their containers, so if it gets broke, gets lost, stolen, wherever the case may be, we're not coming back to them saying, hey, you owe us for this, or there's a charge for delivery of containers, things like that. We're just going to take care of you guys as a community. Same with the cleanups, right? We want to keep your community as we're part of it. Our name is in a lot of places with our municipalities. So we want to keep our brand looking good just as much as we want to keep your community looking good. But I think the best thing that we bring to any municipality is what you're seeing right here is the dynamic of us. So I come out and I may talk to you till I'm blue in the face, but without Gary and his team and Dan and his team backing me up and actually coming in and servicing what we're offering, I would lose 100 times out of 10. We never want to come in and say we're going to be the cheapest guy on the block, because we're probably not. If I'm the cheapest guy on the block, I no longer have a good team behind me. I no longer have a young fleet behind me. I no longer have those resources to keep your containers refreshed and things like that, because that cheap pricing has to go towards something. I always will say we come in and give an affordable rate, and we honor that rate throughout the lifetime of the agreement. We don't come in and say, oh, all of a sudden we got to raise it for fuel and things like that. We will say we would like an opportunity to come in if fuel raises too high, but we would look for board approval before we make any changes like that. So to us, it's a partnership. It's really trying to come in and be one with your community in whatever case that may be for you guys and what your needs are. With that, I'll just kind of open it up with any kind of questions, comments, concerns that anybody may have.
What kind of price are you talking about?
So it's really hard to say that, and I'm going to be honest with you. When we look at a community, we look at it as a whole. So we would want to know exactly how many homes are we doing? Is the recycling being offered at every home? Are you guys looking at municipal services? Are you looking at the cleanup as well? I don't want to come in here and say, hey, it's so-and-so dollars, and then actually put in a bid, and you're like, what happened to so-and-so dollars? So, you know, we really try to keep that close to our chest. The other reason is too, I don't want to come in and say something, you know, where a competitor may look at it and go, oh, well, I know what he's going to come in at. But it's very affordable. I can tell you that. You know, we don't have any municipalities that are like 25 a month or anything like that. You know, they're all south of that. I'll give you that at least. Yeah, I mean, that's about the best answer I can give you there.
I'm just trying to get an idea, for comparison, what we're shooting for. Because it's kind of, I mean, with the billing going to the, I assume you'd have, we would be the one doing billing.
Yeah, and if you did, we would pass through that. So whatever cost savings you give us, which that would be one of them, if you're like, hey, you just have to send us one bill, not 600 bills. We're immediately gonna put that in our model and say, we no longer have to eat that cost, so we don't have to put it in. So we just pass the savings on.
Yeah, but it's gotta be a decent savings for the, if they're handling the billing there and because old Aunt Lucy's house, she didn't pick up that bag there, didn't call. I mean, you gotta field those calls at the house and we're the bad guys, so it's gotta be a significant savings.
And there's some of the things that we do too. So every single one of our municipalities pretty much anymore, we've created emails for them. So residents can go in and shoot an email, and that email comes to myself, it goes to Gary, it goes to our ops supervisor, and it goes to our dispatch as well. So between the four of us, we each know who has to actually handle that email. We'll reply to it to your resident to let them know that we're getting things taken care of and what that action is to take care of it. That's a great thing in my mind because it gives your residents a paper trail. Say, hey, I spoke to Republic, here's what they said back. And it holds us accountable to make sure that we're doing what we should be doing. Phone calls, those are easy to say, oh, I called 10 times. Well, did you? But an email, right, you can definitely have that paper trail.
It's an exclusive email to this market.
It would be specifically for this community.
Do you have cameras on your vehicles at all?
We do, yep.
Okay, so like if Joe Schmo said, hey, I had my trash can out there and they came by and they didn't pick it up, you have a camera to say, well, here's your house and there's no can.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, I won't get that call from me.
Tony, I promised I wouldn't send it. I think we're gonna have, we have it in our large container. It's Track My Truck. So you're gonna be able to go on. Let me tell you, people wanna know when if we're an hour late, we get worried calls. You're gonna be able to go online and look at where our truck's at to pick the trash up.
Yeah, and there's a lot of municipalities that we deal with, and of course, we could have that situation where they call in and say, hey, this guy claims he doesn't have his trash out. We usually 99% of the time come back that next day.
Well, I mean, that's a good business.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would. That's just, it would be nice to have, that's the only reason I asked.
Yeah, and I mean, in our municipal markets where we have a contract, I would say that we probably use those cameras a little less because most people know, hey, I gotta have it out the night before. You don't really run into that, oh man, is it Tuesday this week? You know what I mean? It's all the same day, everybody's stuff's lined up out on the street. It really helps out.
For all the municipal contracts that you have in other locations, do those villages or municipalities do the direct billing themselves? All of it, if you have this bulk contract?
Yeah, so we actually only have 2 in our market that we bill for them. Now, they opt to pay a little bit more of a price because then we were doing the billing, so we couldn't pass that savings through. So we do have a couple that we do. This is just a lot more fluid, if you will, or a better process, if you will, to just be able to summary bill.
Did you name a few municipalities that you
Sure.
just put the handful on?
Sure.
They're big
Over around here, we got Thomasboro, we got Hoopston, we got Watsika, we got Milford, we got a few over in Indiana. And then in our Bloomington market, we have about 12 of them over there that we can do. The Bloomington market really, all of their municipalities around Bloomington, all really jumped in on
When my
this.
son went to school there, it was nice to just have it included in that bill.
Yeah.
Monticello.
Monticello, yes. Monticello, we got that one a year ago. And I did send, I don't know if you got it, I did send over a letter that the mayor had, sent to us on our behalf saying, hey, thanks for what you did. They were an open market, which kind of how you guys are considered, right? Anybody can come in town and offer any kind of services. They went to a single hauler. I love Maureen over there. Like, she'd probably be happy to talk to anybody about, hey, here's what it was like, right? Because the first couple of months, anytime you do this, it is a little chaotic, right? It's a change for a lot of people. But I also love how much she would say, but here's what Republic did to help us put out these fires, right? And here's how much they were on it. We had constant communication with them. Our driver goes in there every single day before he leaves town. Hey, have you got any calls? Is there anybody I need to run back to? Is there anything I can do before I leave? I mean, that's
really gonna get mad. She got nationally recognized by our company, our driver.
Yeah.
Now, not to just asking, the other company, we were saying that we have a trash day.
Sure.
And we go through like 8.
You go through a lot. We're here.
And, you know, they, obviously, it probably adds to the price, but they were willing to throw something like that in to have I don't know if it was a trash day or if they would just pick up.
Yeah.
Or you just set it out in front of your house type thing, one day a year or whatever.
Yeah, so we would definitely have an all-inclusive pricing. And
Okay.
again, that's why I'm saying it's hard to throw it out because we don't really know what's being asked of us.
Right.
But yes, that community cleanup and everything else would all be part of
Okay.
Well, is that something we need to go ahead and bring something to you that we'd like to have this, this and this, or is that something that you come out?
it. Well, I think your lawyer is here, right?
Yes.
So he's probably a good guy to talk to. So most communities do put out some kind of, you know, RFP, before we do any kind of bidding on the services or things like that. You don't have to put out an RFP in Illinois if you're just like, hey, Republic's who we want to deal with, then yes, we can show you that. But the one thing is we wouldn't want to show, hey, here's everything we're gonna give you, and then you go, oh, well, we're gonna go out to bid, because now we can just
Okay,
give it everything.
okay.
Yes, sir.
What do you, we talked to somebody a couple weeks ago and they offered a recycling program too, like a village like ours, what would you do for that?
So we actually offer residential recycling here in town already. So we already have that service.
But if we go with single business like yours,
Sure.
what happens then?
So we would still offer that. So what would happen?
Add an
is-
extra fee?
Well, it would be one price for everything. We'd have one price for every home to have trash and recycling. And the biggest reason is because we do want you to recycle. That's again, we're leading the industry for a reason, right? Because we want to find those solutions for people for recycling. So we would offer that.
The other people over here, it sounded pretty good what they offer.
Yeah, and I'll say, I can talk to you until I'm blue in the face on what we do with our recycling material. Because I absolutely love it.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
As far as what it would be.
Yeah.
I don't use your service right now,
I got you.
but I just, so I don't know.
You have a lot of bottles too to use? We got Poly Center in Indiana. We're making recycled Coke bottles for Coca-Cola. We're going places, I'm telling you.
No, I mean, that's, as long as there's something that's included in that. And
Yeah.
what it would be.
Yeah, no, that's important to us to bring that to every community.
I have a question.
Yes.
The other thing too with us doing the billing, so since it would be a contract, so if we have residents who don't pay,
Mhm.
then is that on us then to collect that fee?
So I am gonna work with you anytime you need me to work with you. I know a lot of our competitors be like, hey, every 6 months, we'll ask you what the house count is. You can tell me 3 days in a row to change your house counts to different numbers, and I'm always gonna work with you on that. So if you guys are having somebody that you're like, hey, we just can't get them to pay, can you stop services not only at their home, but can you also stop billing us for a moment? We'll absolutely do that.
I wasn't sure how that would work if we got to a point where they were chronically not paying their bills, then of course there would be have some way to correct that.
Yeah, we don't want to overcharge. We only want to get what we are owed to get, right? So we don't want any extra. So if we're not providing services somewhere, we definitely don't want to charge you for something.
Trustees, any other questions? No? Thank you.
Good for now.
Okay. You guys all have my cards. If something does come up, I'm really happy to come back and talk or talk individually, whatever the case may be. But again, I really do hope at the end of the day, if this is something you guys are serious about, let me hand you some references, call these other municipalities, have conversations with them. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face again, how great of a company we are. But I would love for you guys to hear it from the field as well, and actually have them tell you, what we've done for their communities and just a better overall, partnership that we brought them.
Well, I know, I have one other question. With a community our size, and you have a pretty good general idea how big we are, would that be, to cover the whole community, would that be you guys being in town once a week, twice a week, usually?
I'm gonna defer right back here.
Twice, at least.
And that would include the recycling pickup also?
Correct.
Because that's usually done on a separate day.
Correct.
So, okay. I was just curious.
Are you in town twice? or more than that?
I'm in town, we have a truck in town almost every day.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But we're getting ready.
We're using one truck used to pick up the commercial customers as well as residential.
Yeah,
So he's wanting a new truck that's automated and.
I will be the only one.
On that.
I'll be the only one here starting next week.
Yep.
It's
It'll still be
automated.
multiple days a week, but I'll be able to get our customers with the new truck.
And what else can I offer you besides, you know exactly. Man, hands down, that's the best. All right, well, I appreciate your time. Again, please reach out to me with anything. I'm happy to talk and discuss at any point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, second item on our evening is, entering intergovernmental agreement. We've done this in the past also with communities. I believe it's Urbana, Schoy, doing this with the water.
Sure, so, we have historically done this, I think we do it every 2 years. Ameren.
And it's usually several of the area communities that tie into this.
Ameren's rate, gets decided by the ICC. The ICC has, somebody from the Attorney General's office who in theory represents the public. And then Ameren puts together evidence to show why they need to jack the rates on us. And then the advocate looks at it and attacks it. And then we all have a right to go ahead and represent ourselves and hire a lawyer and do the same thing. It's not cost effective and villages can't do it, and it's not part of what we do. But this is a group of villages where we're kind of paying based on population to participate, and it just amounts to a few $100s for us, I think. And what we're doing is we're hiring a lawyer in Springfield who just does this to go in and try to knock the rates down. The upside to a Champaign or Urbana to have us sign on isn't the couple $100 they get out of us. It's that the ICC will see the list of municipalities that have hired and are represented and have entered their appearance. So in theory, that kind of maybe gives us a little more bang, more presence to hopefully, keep costs down. That's the theory. You don't have to do it historically. You have, I think I represent the majority of towns that are on this. As far as I know, everybody's still doing it. There is a question as to whether or not the UC Sanitary District may join this. And if they do, they would just join it, just pay a flat amount that just kind of gets negotiated by Champaign Urbana. And it would just kind of lower what we'd end up having to pay later. Because they work with Ameren all the time, they're trying to figure out whether they really want to kind of get into this business. So that'd be the only new partner that might get added to the list. I don't have the actual agreement for you yet. I'm not the one generating it. The legal department at Champaign will, but it's basically going to be last year's agreement. It's not time sensitive for you to do this, but it would be helpful to know if you don't want to do it, just so I can let them know not add you to the agreement.
Now you're clear, this is Illinois American, it's not Ameren.
Right.
Ameren, sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Just want to clarify, just in
You
case.
started dozing and then you woke me up to ask me. That's what you get.
We've done it before.
Yeah.
Anytime you can go ahead and get a little leverage, maybe save the citizens some money, you try to do it.
Do we have to make a motion on this or not? You do not. Okay. This will just show up on another agenda and then you'll have an actual agreement that you'll approve at that point. Okay, so yeah, the point of talking about it is just to tell me take off the list if you want to be taken off the list.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right, very good. Third item is we have, an update with community solar. So,
Let's stand. Good evening, St. Joseph, board members, mayor. I would butcher your name if I try to say it.
You just go by team.
So I'm Justin Headley with Bow Renewables. I have a little presentation. I was actually back here, I think late October, and gave a presentation. You guys invited me back. We made some tweaks to it, and there's some new trustee or board members to give it. So we'll be up on the board here. Want to go to the next slide. Stuff to read. Introduction. I don't know what happened to that thing. That's right. So introduction to Bow Renewables. It's kind of just a brief background of our owners, the three partners that started Bow Renewables. I have one with me tonight, Dan Bowl. Hello, managing partners of Bow. Our other two are Andrew Weber and Thomas Olenek, and Mike Musso is our project developer. So why Bow? It's terrible. That's all right. That's right. Why Bow?
Yeah.
We'll let Dan tell you that.
Yeah, Justin can't read it, I probably. Yeah, so Bo, we founded in 2018, like three guys and $7,500, like, let's go, try to build a community solar project. So we started as a consulting firm and we grew a team of about 40 people. And we became basically an industry expert to where, if you were developing a big portfolio of projects or you had a top, construction project, they started hiring us to do that. Well, a couple of years ago, we made a pivot and we actually started developing our own projects for our own assets and for, a different sales model. So one thing that I really like about our team is we were sort of industry experts before we decided to become a self-developer. And we bring just a unique blend of experience, interacting with the community. We have our own land agents, we have our own engineering team. We have a team that deals with Ameren all the time, which is a challenge. So we just really like the way that we enter a community, the experience that we bring, and we've been in and out of, I don't know, hundreds of municipalities in different, forms and shapes. We're not always offering to lease the land. Sometimes we're here on permit hearings and things like that. So, happy to be here under a different scenario.
So our experience in Illinois, we currently have several projects, 20 throughout the state, project management on 24 projects. We're overseeing construction management on 13. We're currently working with the city of Galva and Dalzell on multiple projects, 3 projects in Galva, one on a landfill, one on their school district, and one on the farm. And Dalzell is also a landfill as well.
We actually break ground on Galva tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Or Thursday. Everybody will be driving over.
So this is kind of background to the Illinois Block Program. This is what gets you into, just because if you would decide to sign a lease with us, doesn't mean that you're going to get accepted into the program. Their next open enrollment for this is June. It is based on point scoring system.
Yep.
And for Ed, you're a little more familiar with point scoring, so.
Yeah, so they don't make it easy. They've carved out different ways to commercialize the project. I think under the intention of these are community-based projects. They want a variety of landholders and stakeholders to be involved. So they've started carving up the scoring, depending, are you still farming part of the site? Are you using municipal land? Is it a landfill? Just to sort of push things out of just going to basic farms and saying, all right, we want to do this. So the adjustable block program has a scoring element. We work through that. I mean, it's part of how we cite it. It's part of how we're here. It's a good head start to be working with the municipality directly. And then during the development process, we work to incorporate different items, like on a project over in Galva, we are going to be putting hay around the edges and doing some additional farming. Other things that we've done on projects is like grow peppers and things like tomatoes, just so you carve out a little section of land. We can work with, food programs and stuff like that, where some of these more table vegetables are harder to be commercialized. So yeah, we basically work within the program rules and the guidance, work with you, the municipality, and come up with what we think would be the best scoring blend to try to get these projects the most advantage to be selected. We submitted 4 projects into last year's program and we got all 4 accepted. So we've got 8 going in this year, hopefully 9. So we feel pretty good about our ability to navigate that flow system.
So our developmental approach to farmland, this is very, like Joe mentioned, you're currently, I don't know if you're farming right now, or you're a tenant farmer.
We're currently.
Yes,
Much
okay,
like recently harvested.
yes. So we try to identify all the drain tiles, those get expensive. We can't avoid them all, but we do have it in the lease that we will reimburse you for that or install the latest technology for the drain tiles at the end of that lease. Agricultural preservation, we want to minimize all impact on land. So we can do this in a variation of ways. Like I said, sorry. So the farming and everything is addressed in the lease. If like you're in the middle of, or your tenant farmer was in the middle of planting season and we decided it's going forward, we're going to reimburse him for everything he planted. That's all covered under that. And the village as well, or whatever, whoever paid for all that. We pay seed, crops lost. You don't have to worry about that. We get a pretty, it's kind of on the nose ahead of time.
We try to give as much notice as possible,
But yeah, with the program, they accept you and they want you to go.
yeah, there's usually an interconnection timeline that's affiliated with actually commercializing the project, and we have to meet that window. So we have to go, then immediate construction schedule. And like Justin said, we have provisions so that anything that was planted or anything that was bought would be compensated and paid back. So there's no loss by transitioning the property.
And at the end too, I don't know how the county is here. We do put a bond in place too. So there's money set aside, basically, is it the middle or beginning?
Well, we would strike out the bond language.
Yeah, we strike out the bond language. It covers it, the removal. So that money's always there in case something happened, God forbid.
And we try to leave our bond language open in our initial lease because we know there could be ordinance requirements for it. There could be, state restrictions or how we would have to bond. So our preference would just be to bond directly to the municipality, but sometimes there's other state regulations or county regulations that could drive that, and it could change as boards turn over and rules change. So we leave it pretty flexible when we say we'll do either or. If there's the ordinance required regulated bond, we'll do that. If not, in the place of that, we bond directly to you.
Yeah. And we would work with your legal team.
Yeah.
So this is really boring. This is sent to everyone, and Joe can circulate it if I didn't get it all, but this just gives the solar components. You can read that way. So we just right for that. So this gets to the prospective project previews. So this is the sample site layout. This gives us what we see from just studies, initial studies. We would have to come out and see. But we're looking to build, total, it gives us about 27 acres within this site that is buildable of the 34.72 that is deeded. There is a 12 kV line going to the south that we plan to interconnect to. That is already there, and we will be working with Ameren at that point for the transmission lines. So this is the part you guys don't care about. This is what the village gets. So at the beginning, it is a 3-year option period. These projects are moving fast. We don't even anticipate it to last the 3 years. We will pay you $5,000 annually, and you continue to use the land as you are now. Nothing changes.
Which is 15,000 for 3 years, so the hotel stay can be.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Yeah, and that's yours regardless.
Yeah.
We have to walk away. It's your money. We're not taking it back. So the construction period, we do pay 250 per acre annually. That is typically 6 to 9 months, and this is a very small site. It might not even take that long for construction. The lease period is 30 years with 2 5-year extensions. The lease period begins once the project starts generating power. So up until then, you're going to get paid $250. And I think it's on the next slide. Don't go to it yet. There's a bonus that goes in there too. Once it's operating and we're producing power, the village will get $2,500 per acre annually. And with an estimated year 1 they have 75,000. Now we tweaked this, we highlighted since we've been here last time we were at 2,000 per acre. After speaking with Joe a couple times, he mentioned more money up front. So this gives you 15,000 off the rip, more than our last offer. We did lower the escalator, but the total amount over the 30-year lease is 157,000 more than the previous offer.
And if it goes to 40, it's.
And if it goes to 40, it's significantly higher. Because that'll still keep going up every year. Another benefit is a $10,000 a year donation to the park district. This comes with a 2% escalator throughout the life of it. It comes to just over 600,000, and that will be solely for whatever the village chooses to use it for. Joe mentioned you guys maybe put in a new baseball diamond, upgrades, stuff like that. There's also the potential to lower the bills. We're gonna kind of have to sell some more options for your electricity as well. $50,000 donation. This will go to the park district. This is a one-time, like I said, it's whatever you guys want it for. It's specified Parks and Rec because that's what you guys had mentioned that was important to you guys. I think that's it there. Oh, the educational opportunities. So we like to incorporate the things in the school. So what we've been doing, we have a kiosk machine. It kind of looks like an ATM machine that the kids would be able, and you could see second by second the power being generated from the solar field. And it goes to them, so it can be incorporated in the science classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Those all solar projects have like essentially a brain, and all the data is monitored remote. I mean, if a leaf blows onto a sensor on the solar farm, we're going to notice that power production has gone down, even if it's just because the sensor is important. So they're all tightly monitored. It's all Wi-Fi'd out, monitored remotely. So with that data set that it's constantly gathering, you can actually customize how you want to present it, put it into different platforms for school to use. They can incorporate it in science class. It's pretty neat. It's just a way to interact with the data set to show what a solar farm could produce or how clouds impact its ability, or if soiling is different in the region. You learn a lot of stuff. So we like to provide that interface with the local schools.
I think that is it there. And now we'd like to open up for any questions that you may have. I know there could be quite a few, so hit me.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I bet you would be the first.
Okay, all that you guys fence in and maintain?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Okay. And what do you say you put just like you're talking about growing peppers and stuff, so you just put some kind of a low growth something underneath them?
Yeah, typically it's a blended seed mix that has pollinators included into it. So flowers, and it doesn't grow super fast, but obviously growing over the
what kind of poles do you use?
For the panels?
Yeah.
So we drive 8 miles basically, 8 feet into the ground. So
yeah, I mean, no pipe or what?
No, they're a steel beam.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty thin. I think W9s.
Okay.
Depends.
And you say you're cognizant of all the field tiles and all that, trying not to.
Yeah. If you guys have maps, that's great.
Yeah, and have we broken some? Absolutely. We include repair plans, replacements. We try to gain as much information as possible before we go out and drive piles. But coming from my background is a geotechnical contractor, so I put foundations in for skyscrapers in Miami and houses in Denver. And I could tell you that if they told me the gas line was right there and I drilled a hole right there, I went right, but so we do our best, but we're not there. In fact, I knocked the gas out to Aspen in the middle of winter. Right through a 36-inch main. So, but
that's why it's solar now.
Yeah. But we do our best, and we will.
You said an option. What's the option at the end of the contract? That we could purchase that, or?
So it's in 3 phases. So the option is the period where we would go under an agreement with you, so that we could actually start to submit our application to the Ameren, into the block program, and we would do the diligence, wetland analysis, geotechnical work and things like that. So we could get our designs. And then 3 things need to happen. We need Ameren to say we can actually plug the project in, which is becoming the struggle with the century in Illinois. And then we would need permit approval, which the state did pass, statewide siting laws which allow for the advancement of solar within 3 to 6 months, so that's really good. And then the final item to follow, we would need to be selected out of the block program. And that's why we're here now,
Yeah.
trying to encourage timeless, certainly not trying to rush. If we can get into the next window, it's just better for advancing it. So during that period, like Justin said, you're under option. You can use the land as you see fit, as long as you're not constructing like cell phone towers and or something like that. And then, let's say those 3 things happen, then we would advance to construction, which means we actually execute the lease, and essentially we would occupy the land for 30 to 40 years. And be a tenant to you and just pay an annual rent payment of, the 20.
Yeah, there's no out-of-pocket costs to the city of San Diego.
So at the end of that term, is that something, I know you said you had a perform or bond, sit there like a decommissioning bond, but I mean, you're still gonna have panel produced.
Right.
They may be upgraded to some other technology in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of that 40 years, there could certainly be a discussion, or 30 years, certainly a discussion about transferring the field to you all, if there's not another person that wants to buy it, or, that's definitely out there. There's no contractual guarantee of anything other than if you want it out and we don't have another purpose for it, we will pay to remove it.
Now, do you go ahead and try to, I guess, utilize the buy in USA portion where there's incentive for that, for the metal and other thing?
We certainly do, and I could say, I worked for a solar manufacturer, TerraSmart, for years. And most of solar components, other than the modules, or there's 2 things, and some of the electrical components are US based. Like we buy a lot of domestic product for steel. In fact, when the tariffs went in and impacted the steel prices in the United States, solar was one of the biggest hit because we buy locally already. So we do try to capitalize on all that. A lot of the vendors that we use are, American
I know
based.
there's incentives for that, I didn't know if that's.
Yeah, and some of the inverter incentives too, where, they could be US produced. So we do try to capture all the incentives we can. Sometimes the pricing is just too good elsewhere that you end up with a.
No, how does your panels degrade or projected to degrade in 30 years?
Yeah, so as far as the degradation, the only thing that really degrades is the ability to produce power. And so what we would do as part of this, outside of this, we enter into, power agreements essentially, where we have to produce. Those contracts, when I started 6 years ago, were in the 85 to 90% predictability range. And now they're like 93, 95. And the degradation on the panels is reducing with every iteration that comes out. It's probably like an 85% production a year, 35 or something right now. It depends a little bit on module type, but it all gets modeled out.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're contractually bound to produce power.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it slips too low, we pay that difference.
And you guys maintain not the inside perimeter, and I assume just the immediate area around the outside?
Yeah.
15 feet
We
outside.
typically include 15 feet, and we do that far, although we can look at if there's like a tract 5 feet or something, we'll probably say, hey, we'll include this in the lease, we'll maintain it. But we do that because, some of these have screening, so visual impact. We want to make sure that we're maintaining the outside of the fence line. So even in our stormwater planning or development permitting, we always include that extra space to make sure that, we can accommodate all that.
Yeah, and to complete that, we would hire local landscapers.
Okay. So the city has no real maintenance obligation, you guys do
No.
that?
No, even the
You
access
just look
point
at
in.
mailbox money.
Yeah, I want to be able to do that. But, yeah, no, really, we're like obligated to plow for the gates for access for emergency purposes. We'll coordinate with EMS to make sure that they're aware of what the facility is. Although I could tell you that we coordinate in many municipalities and many towns, and they tell me the same thing. We're just gonna watch it burn from over here.
Okay.
So we just know where they'll be standing.
Okay.
But yeah, the obligations are really all on us.
Okay.
Any other questions? What background is currently doing,
$7,400 annually.
and is that currently going towards the project?
It is, since we created the Parks and Recreation Fund this current fiscal year and separated the expenses and revenues out, it is, yes. Prior to that, it was just going into the general fund.
So it would make sense for the income on this to go likely towards parks.
yes.
And we did carve out certain direct forces. I think originally we were looking at maybe an educational, stipend. But the fact that we can call out that it is going to support the community parks actually helps in the scoring. So we're happy to work with Joe when he mentioned that.
Yeah. And we had everything going to the school system, 10,000 scholarship
Right.
and then. Yeah. And if we can still probably set aside a scholarship with the full 10,000 or something, split it up, right?
Certainly look at it.
Yeah.
I got a different question.
Sure.
So we're in a battle on this board of whether they want to put solar in out at the sewer plant.
Okay.
And I want to buy it because of all the
Yes, you brought this
incentives.
up last time, yeah.
Yeah, and they want to,
It's, I
he
remember.
they want to get it given to us and then pay 5.4 cents a kilowatt hour to somebody else, but it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
With the incentives, if, as business owners, what would be you don't have to make a recommendation. I'm just curious if you would make a recommendation, what you think, if you were in this situation, what you think would be the best.
Let me just make sure, again, so you want to get the property and produce?
We have the property.
Okay.
We just want to, what we've been seeing is we could buy it for like 1.3, 1.4.
Yeah.
And our incentives would be about $1 million. And they want to give it to us, but they're not giving it to us. Over the next 30 years, we pay them 5.4 cents a kilowatt hour, and it goes up 2% every year.
Annually.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a tough one.
that's why we're in the battle. So
I mean, either one sounds bad.
Yeah.
Having the land, I think is good.
Any other questions?
Thanks all. All right.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you guys not getting.
Yeah.
So.
This third time, eh, Ron? I'm looking all the wings off.
All right, be in touch with Joe, and like I said, we're still working
Yeah,
through
sure.
the process here, so, you'll be hearing from Joe.
Yep, and if any questions come up, my email's in there too, feel free to reach out directly. If not, Justin's
I'm
always
always
available.
available. If there's any legal questions, I'll put them in touch with our attorney too.
All right, sounds ready to
All right,
go.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next we have. Can we be a few? Yeah, go ahead and leave. Okay. Well, we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. You too. Have a good night.
We just need normally to get the agreement done. And
I said you.
Yeah, that seems like a.
We're gonna stick around to if you have any questions again, if anybody will came up too.
You've already blown it.
He is only one person. He only one person.
Okay. I'll give them off. You want me to rearrange the agenda so we can move you up, so you guys can get on out of here, or do you want to just hang out with us all night long?
Either way, don't rearrange anything on our behalf. Do not have the evening.
Yeah, it's no problem, we can go ahead and move you up a little bit, so. That way. You can go on. Completely. It is right, right, you usually have something more fun to do.
Breaking the kids.
You
could go get margaritas after this. You don't have to tell them what time you got that.
Oh,
So, since Art's back. I like to give Mark a hard time. So, I am going to rearrange the, agenda just a tad bit. We have a couple of ladies here in regards to, soccer. And, you just have a request for explaining what you guys are needing out of the soccer fields. Yes. So, I'll go ahead and have you stand up, introduce yourselves and tell us what you're doing.
All right, well, my name is Diane Stevens, and I am currently the president of our soccer board. I've been a member since 2013, and then this is.
I'm Cammie Anders. I'm a board member for, I think, 3 years, 2 years.
Okay, so basically, we're coming here just to put in our formal request for some funds for some new soccer goals. I had Joe go ahead and send this presentation to all of you, just so you can kind of see who we are, what we do. And I also included the numbers of participants we've had over the last 5 years for our fall and our spring seasons. I'm gonna scroll down just a little bit. Maybe one more slide. So there's our numbers. So you can see we've been pretty consistent over the years. And again, this is the past 5. So we roughly each season have about 150. So you're talking about 300 for each season. So consistent numbers there. What we do after each season is we take a look at all of our equipment. We talk to the coaches as we're using it just to see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. And there are currently 2 sets of goals that need addressed. And that is the 1st and 2nd grade goals at Woodard, and then also the 3rd and 4th grade. So what we did is we took a look at the 1st and 2nd grade, and it was an immediate need for those. So what we did is we did go ahead and purchase those just for the safety of the players. I did include a link to all of that as far as pricing. And then I also included pictures too of the current state of those goals on the next slide. So like I said, we did go ahead and purchase those ones. So after we had met with the rest of the group in the spring planning meeting, we'd seen in the contract that there's potentially funds through the village to cover that cost. So we apologize for putting the cart in front of the horse. Trying to get that taken care of quickly just for the safety of our players. So the next set that we are looking at is for the 3rd and 4th grade field. We kind of looked at where we're going to do the 1st and 2nd grade and then eventually figure out how we're going to be able to fund the goals for the 3rd and 4th grade. Because right now we run completely on a volunteer basis, and all the money that we take in, we put right back into the programs. So the only way for us to fund these items would be to increase our costs. Which we don't want to do that because we want to encourage as many players as possible. So that is why we are here. And then on the next one, we just asked for just some new nets. Also, let's see, that's the smaller field at Hackler Park. Those goals are still in great shape. The other goals at Hackler are still in great shape. And then we also utilize last week, Cole. No, yes, yes. We just have pop-up goals we use for that, so there's nothing required there. So basically, we're just looking for potentially reimbursement for the 1st and 2nd grade goals, if that would be an option. 3rd and 4th grade would be next, and then also some nets. So we could kind of stick all those things somewhere in the request. I'll have to know. Let's see. Like I said, I've been with the board since 2013, and I've never been a part of purchasing anything like this. So again, we apologize for purchasing those ones right away, but so I mean that shows you right there. And who knows how long those goals have been there prior to even us coming there. So these are not items that are purchased fairly often. So yeah, we did do some research. We made sure that we read as many recommendations. We also talked with Ryan, who runs Rancho Sports Complex, to see kind of what brands he's used, what he's seen as far as, you know, what would last, things like that. So any questions for us?
Any questions for them?
So you already purchased those, the
We
2,
did
and then you're
purchase-
requesting, then you have 2 others that you need to purchase, is that what you're saying?
We purchased the 2 goals
Right.
for the 1st and 2nd grade.
Right.
We did that because we weren't sure how long, we knew that we needed it by spring, and we weren't sure, because I mean, it's kind of all over the place, just depending on inventory. So that's why we went ahead and put that, got those ordered. And then 3rd and 4th grade, which is the field in between the high school one and the 1st and 2nd grade field out at Woodard, that would be the other set. So that would be the 2 goals and then the other 2 goals.
And is that set gonna be the same price, like the 20?
That one's a little bit more, yeah, because they're bigger.
And are you in need of those now, or is that something?
Those ones
next
we
year?
could, yes, those ones, because we were gonna try to stagger it out, like we said, for the funding, because we know they aren't cheap, and that's. We kind of were putting it on the back burner, but like I said, the first and second grade, they were definitely just for the safety of the kids, we needed to get those taken care of. But the third and fourth grade could actually, yeah, they could wait just a little bit.
Do we have a fund for that, or does that just come out of general funds?
Every dollar over 40-ish thousand that you spend in Parks and Recreation is supplemented by the general fund, yes.
So we don't have money allocated for that at all.
I have a question. So you have the players, pay to play.
Yes.
Your coaches are all volunteer, which is very typical in a lot of youth sports, right? We all have it. Do you do any something like that to pay for something like this, or?
We have not done fundraising, and it has been brought up. That is a pretty big undertaking, and right now we're starting our board members, so just getting just our day-to-day runnings going, that part, like I said, has been brought up, but nobody's been able to take that on, just for lack of volunteers.
So, per the discussion that's gone on, so the presentation that was just here before about the Parks and Recreation, we have a situation where we just don't have a pot of money sitting for our Parks and Recreation. We're working on that, trying to get that figured out. I wish we did. I mean, if I won the lotto, I would give it to Parks and Recreation. I'm on record to say now.
You don't ever play.
No, I do right. So, you know, I feel terrible, but you know, if we start down that road and give to them, then we need to give to everybody else. That's my opinion. I don't know how we determine that.
I'm curious where you said you found out you might be able to get funding from. Is there something written somewhere that the village will?
That was me. So
Okay.
what I told them was that they wanted to make a budget request. This is the time of the year we're prepping the fiscal year. This group hasn't, since I've been here at least, hasn't asked for anything. Our other associations like softball and baseball have. And pickleball. And like, I think it was last fiscal year that you bought variety of things for softball, like base plugs and a miscellaneous list of things that they requested. And so, but yes, the problem that Trustee Cummings is bringing up is that you historically don't have a revenue source that pays for this stuff. So you're knowingly supplementing it from the general fund, which is why you all went down this path of trying to grow economically, because you're trying to grow your tax base rather than increasing taxes on your current tax base. And you're trying to take a conservative approach there. If you are successful in that area, supplementing things from the general fund isn't as significant. You can continue to do that longer, probably. However, if you're not successful with economic growth, you have to increase revenue somewhere to be able to continue to pay for these things and repairs. And you're already going to be doing at least $30,000 to $40,000 in lights for one of the fields this year, for one of the ball fields that need to be upgraded. You did a metal roof 2 fiscal years ago for significant money. You did another roof for significant money. So anyway,
My personal opinion would be, I would be fine with paying this, but I would love to see you guys do some fundraising for what else you got coming up, because I know, I mean, you know, Martyr, but like we wanted windscreens at the tennis court and I paid for those out of my own pocket. I mean, there's people who will give to a cause for stuff like that. And I mean, I was gonna hit up businesses and try to do it. I never got that far, but so I see your struggles there, but I think you could hit up a rocks or a rib cage. I mean, we every year and people are happy to give, you know, for that kind of thing. So I think you could get some pretty good money from businesses and.
Yeah, and initially we wouldn't have addressed all of you either had, when we were looking through the contract, and it said that the village is responsible for goals and the maintenance of the goals. So
the sports agreement that they have, so, and I do, because right now, a lot of that stuff, I do consider some of that is maintenance. Because we do have, just like the baseball diamonds and the bases and things that go along with baseball or softball. To me, the same goes with soccer and, you know, some of the other things too. I mean, with pickleball, we initially did buy some nets and things there. So some of this I do consider maintenance issues because we do offer those programs at the park through your volunteer organizations. But the thing that Terry's wanting to point out is that this is the start, it's always a balancing act between our general funds and what we, you know, have to put out for the parks and things. So it is always a partnership, you know, that if the organizations can do what they can to help raise funds for some of their needs also, that's helpful. But I, you know, also think that as far as the village goes, some of the programs and things that we support at our parks, and because ultimately, once those goals are there at the park, they become the villages, because then other organizations and things can use those goals, the same as the ball diamonds and tennis courts and that sort of thing. So once they're at our parks, they kind of become everybody's. And so I think that's where that has come into the sports agreement, where yeah, we inherit those things, they become ours, and so it's part of our responsibility also to maintain a lot of those things. So, but most certainly, if any organization can, because sometimes you have better, easier abilities to do the fundraising and things than what we do. Same thing, you don't want to make it too expensive for the kids to play ball, but yet you do have the flexibility to maybe increase it just a little bit, because we always also try to keep our fees, as far as park use fees, as low as we can, and obviously it's never enough to take care of the mowing and maintenance and everything also. So, but and I do know that, yes, soccer has not come to us. We've not replaced the goals for, I mean, I can't really remember when we last did anything with those goals. So I know they've been around for a long time, so obviously must have been pretty decent ones. I know the very first ones my husband made years ago, and we were, he did sheet metal work, but they were beast. They were heavier. You couldn't hardly move those sort of things, and then they actually got stolen. I think so heavy, they were heavy, so heavy. I don't know how someone walked up them, but that was when metal prices were up, and apparently someone thought they could. So that was, like I said, many years ago. But anyway, so. But no, I appreciate you guys coming out, and I said, we are in the process of working on budget items, and you've already submitted your stuff to Joe. And so I think our, you know, what we need to do is just, when we start throwing budget numbers, seeing what we can maybe do to help you out there, but also keep in mind that it is a balancing act, and we have to,
But you brought up about fees. I know we get stuff from softball. How much does soccer pay? Do they pay anything, or?
They do, and I'd have to look, I don't have it differentiated in my head. The big number total for all of them is right at 15 grand.
For everything, we're running about 250,000.
so yeah, they do pay a.
Yes, we do. We get the invoice from Debbie.
Yes.
And we pay our fees. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. I know we're overall, all the fees, once I figured it was about 5%, 4% for what we paid, but I know we're running over $250,000 deficit coming out of the general.
Yeah. So, but.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
What was the plan to pay for them as of, like, when you ordered them? What was how are they being paid for?
So we did increase fees by about $5 for each kiddo. So right now we're running at 60 for kindergarten, no, 65 for kindergarten, 70 is first through 4th grade, and then 5th through 8th grade is 75. So that's how we did, we were able to get a little bit of cushion in there. And then what we do, like I said, everything we take in goes right back into the program. So we kind of budget out how the season would look. And then fees are based on that. As far as the competitive goes to and recreational, but then we also have some games that can't get canceled, so then we don't have to pay for officials for those games. So everywhere we've been able to get money to put right back into the program, that's what we've done. So those goals, like I said, have already been covered, so we didn't know if that was an option for the reimbursement. If that's not, that's okay, then we've already paid for
That was
those
my
funds.
question was.
But then at least looking at the next set, any help that we could possibly get with that, so we don't have to raise fees again, would be wonderful. And looking at, how, like, we don't use lights, we don't use any concessions, I mean, basically, we just need brass. So, which, I mean, I know it's not big down to get to.
I don't know what the protocol has been in the past about like somebody coming in and requesting reimbursement as opposed to, requesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how that works because, I haven't been on the board that long. But I also don't, because you put, I say you, I guess we put money into baseball and softball and possibly pickleball and whatever, that I don't see how we can say no to soccer when there's 300 kids a year that participate in it. I know that we don't have a specific fund for it, but so I don't know if you what you want to decide about whether or not you want to reimburse this, but if you decide not to, then I think that we should absolutely consider when they come again or, in the future.
And again, that was completely unknown that part, we just, like, we've never put in
Right.
any kind of request like this, so we weren't quite sure, we just knew it needed to be done, so we just made it happen, so.
Well, my thing is if it says in there that we're supposed to do this stuff,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to do this stuff, no matter how stretched for money we are, I mean, we're not. All living in the poorhouse here, we have some money, we may not be where we want it to go, but I'm just saying, if it says we're supposed to do it, then we're supposed to do it.
And like I said, I do feel like this is kind of a maintenance issue thing. It's not like they're wanting fancy,
Right.
fancy goalposts or electronic goalposts or something that's out of the ordinary. To me, it's more of just a general maintenance thing. So, but I think it's important to bring the information to us and keep us aware of, what's needed at the programs and things too. And this is a good time to do it during budget time. So.
What I would ask is that each one of you etch this conversation into your minds. Whenever you're talking about the village's long-term fiscal outlook and the need to increase revenue into the village. And the approach that you take to that. So that's just something that should be a motivator. This is a priority. I'm not saying it is or shouldn't be or anything like that, but just we need to keep that in the back of our mind that we have a lot of stuff we're trying to do at the moment, and this is worthy. It's totally worthy, but we just gotta keep pushing on that other side of it too.
Being with someone new, is there a time of year that we discuss how the park fund works? Like, it just seems to me that it doesn't make good sense that we go into the park fund knowing it's running at a huge deficit, like.
Well, prior to last year or this fiscal year, the park operations were intermingled within the general fund. And so the significant deficit it was taking on was masked by
Because it
the
was all
general
grouped
fund.
in.
Yes,
Right.
now that we have plucked it out and it's separate.
Which makes sense to
it's
be separate, right?
glaring now.
Yeah,
So that's what it is.
so is there a time that we work on assigning, I mean, obviously, if we go with the solar thing, that's a nice chunk towards that. And here's a plug to all of the reasons we need more tax money coming in.
Exactly.
So please don't bash all the things that might bring in tax money, because they will help fund our parks and things. And yes, I do agree, this should be something that covered, but if softball did have certain things that got paid for last year, what was there $10,000 worth of thing, like.
Now, I will
Is there a
say,
certain amount of stuff that gets spent every year on?
I think this
upgrades
builds,
or-
because the softball actually paid to have the fields leveled or
They
something.
paid for
They have
their-
quite a bit of money, so they paid for some of that. So but I think their fees are higher, must be.
Yeah, and it always has been kind of a partnership with the programs through the years from the beginning of the park. Tiffany, do you want to add something to that?
I just wanted to say, when that park fund was set up, it was never set up to pay park bills. It was only set up to have the money to pay the park bond. The
Right.
park bills, park equipment, park expenses, any kind of activities, any kind of equipment for the parks always was to be paid out of the general fund. So
Right.
this has not been a long-term thing that we never planned for when we set up the park fund. It was just a parking place that was easily trackable. And it's very much a good idea to be,
Right.
put it all in there to track it now. So I think that's a great idea to do it, but
And that's why in the past it wasn't done, because we just didn't do it.
it was always, to
Right,
be
but-
in the past, we
Right.
always had it set up that it was to be supported by the general fund.
Right.
And now it's just a much better idea to track it.
Right, and we're not saying that it wasn't a good idea, we're just.
Right,
saying
I'm just
that
saying why it's
times
different,
change.
I'm just giving a bit of history about why it's different. Originally, when we set it up, we wanted to make sure that the revenue source that we had to pay the park bond was not commingled with anything, so we set up the park bond.
And I
But
think that was
we did-
part of the bond language too, that we had to have it set up.
But we
with.
did, right, but we wanted to make sure it was clear to everyone who looked at it. But we didn't identify a source to pay for park expenses because we wanted to pay that out of the park, out of the general fund, but we had a lot of growth in those years, so that was never a problem.
Right, we don't, we're planning, we didn't have all of the other.
Well, we
stuff.
had we did have that at the time, we did do a sewer program, but we don't have the growth, we don't have a lot of things, and the infrastructure. We have too many programs going on and too many things have fallen behind, that now everything is a scrunch.
Yes.
So,
You look at 20 years ago and the telecommunication, and I was on the board then, but you figure all your landlines and other things are like, or like your cable TV, you had all those taxes went to it.
everything was a lot more flush then, so it wasn't the problem that it is now.
Cable, landlines.
And now everything is a lot more tight as is with everything. The board is a lot more tight now, so you have to monitor everything a lot more.
So then to kind of address your question in a roundabout way, Joe is right, like about the things that we're doing in the budget and how we do all of that, but down the road, we're gonna get to, that you saw in your strategic planning stuff, we're gonna get to strategic, right? We're gonna get to strategic planning about the park, so we can kind of get our arms around that and make sense to it and be able to support the things that we want to support in this.
Well, and then when that bond goes away, that money could actually start going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that every little bit,
and that's a year away.
yes, and every little bit helps, you know, but you're.
Yeah, unfortunately, that telecommunication tax didn't pan out to be, yeah, I mean, because it originally was enough to pay the park bond.
It was
from the
a very
beginning.
nice source of income, but it just
It
dwindled
was.
out to hardly anything now.
Yeah, I think I looked at this month's and it was like $2,600 for the month, you know, so, and it used to
We
generate.
were getting like 19,000 or so.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot and we don't come close with it. Yeah, it's just the nature of that tax on
Right.
cell phones and things has changed over time, but so anyway, so that's why we have to look at new ways and it's be good. I mean, so like if you guys' program ever comes up with any great ideas on we're open for suggestions too. So but that's our goal, and that's like Terry said, part of our strategic planning is to continue to do better with that. So any bits of revenue that we can get to dedicate it towards parks. Years ago, we did the infrastructure, the half-cent sales tax that was dedicated for our stormwater. And it's been, as soon as we get it, it goes straight into the stormwater fund. And that has, we've done some great projects for stormwater in the village. You know, so something like that, could potentially be an option too. So
Do we have any sort of list of, I'm guessing since you have like the lights, is there like a list of requests or list of maintenance things?
Yes, you'll have a discretionary list that you'll be getting. The mayor and I need to meet and go through the budget as I have it as a draft form, and then you'll have a list of discretionary items that you all will need to make decisions on.
Well, I mean, even for, let's say, we do start getting money in a fund like that, a list for going for like the next wish list of things that we would like
If
to
we
do
had-
out there.
oh, yeah,
We
if
could put on there, like,
Yeah.
because I agree, I mean, he's become part of the park and
Yeah.
should be, but if there's not money to pay for them at this moment,
Yeah.
there's not, but if their list started for like, hey, when we get the next 5,000, it can go towards
Right.
this.
Yeah, and some of these items that we determine that are more or less maintenance type items too, because we do always have to put so much into our budget each year for maintenance of the parks. And some of these items are included in that, but I said right now, since we are trying to, I guess it's more of a kind of an education process too, just say, okay, this is what our parks cost us. With all the various programs and things that use the parks and, you know, equipment and things that go along with that. Anywhere from playground equipment to the pavilions to bases and goals and things. And this is when it was thrown into general funds, yeah, it just kind of all got mingled in there and it was hard to really see that. So by having it pulled out, it'll be easier to see and to track it. And then, but yes, you know, it'll be helpful in the long run to determine our budgets and figure out, yes, when we get sources of revenue, then you can see that going in and going out too, so.
When you could watch,
Just trying to.
there's been talks even like on the soccer field, when the high school gonna play. We talked about running a water line where you could go ahead and water that in conjunction with power lines if you ever wanted electric, but there's no money to do it. I mean, it isn't that they're lacking ideas, they're just, you know, when you're $250,000 going out and you don't have 15,000 coming in, I mean, yeah, I think once we get a handle on it and do some other things, you know, I think we could do a lot of things to help all people, kids and everything else. Just like right now, I don't know where it's coming from. So.
Do we pay for the bases for softball and baseball out at the parks?
I have to look at the list of stuff that we bought
Yeah. But-
last year for them.
And I think we have in the past.
And we didn't pay for everything that they asked for either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because there was, that's why they paid to have it, their laser level thing, whatever.
I mean, I get the big picture that we don't have a funding source and everything, but I still am supportive of covering these goals because they've never asked for money and we've covered the expenses for a lot of other sports.
Baseball and softball also do concessions, though, to raise funds, don't they?
Right.
So that's kind of, I guess, their fundraising, where soccer's not located next to the concession stand, which makes it a little more difficult.
Well, there's other
to do
things
that.
like the soccer field extension, we paid for that along with the football field extension and all that. So I mean, indirectly, I mean, you don't get money right there, but you see the benefits of it, so.
Okay, so we'll thank you very much for having me. All right, thanks for being here, guys. Thank you.
Can I have you sign in? Thank you.
It's usually so cold.
Because we kind of warmed up, we turned it down, but Joe wouldn't turn it down to 40.
All right, I'm jumping back up to new business.
Thanks.
We have the consideration of the intergovernmental agreement with, the high school with the FFA farming. You have that in your packet, exhibit number 5. Is there any questions, or Joe, you wanna give a summary of that?
It's pretty basic, it's just they understand that, the farm ground is somewhat fluid, but we have every intention for them to farm it and continue to have those opportunities. And I went and met with the coordinator that helps them out, and they were totally fine with what they were asked to farm. And so this is a pretty general loose agreement and just basically outlines that on those 2 particular locations that were we want them to farm it, they want to farm it, and that those lots could change slightly over time. And it's not guaranteed to be the exact thing, but anyway, it's a pretty basic agreement. They're fine with doing it. Way I understand it is that you all wanted to let FFA do it. So this is just formalizing it. Back when the church owned that property, as an example, I think it was much more just kind of like a handshake type deal. This between 2 governments basically. two public bodies at school, the village, more formal language outlining it, so.
What's the length, it was a yearly contract or is this forever?
I think it's indefinite, it's very, yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions for that? Need a motion?
This agreement shall continue until terminated by either party with 180 days advance notice, so that's the exit of it.
I make a motion that we approve this intergovernmental agreement.
Second. Sally?
Yes.
Painter?
Yes.
Cummings?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Page?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, item number 5 on the new business is, and we discussed this at the last meeting, correct, with our, yeah, the property to the west of town. It's in our 1.5-mile jurisdiction to determine if we were gonna give them, or we were gonna waive our subdivision regulation for that subdivision that they were requesting. That was the Barkus property that we talked about at the last meeting.
This is for the solar, putting the solar after, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not like a building, lot, I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, no, and it was, I think they thought it was subdivided properly when they bought the property, and apparently it wasn't, so I think it's kind of a house cleaning thing on their part. This way I understood it.
You just need a motion for that.
Well, I got a question. Mark, does there have to be any kind of an easement or anything like that to access if the two got broke off? The two properties got broke off or anything, an easement that,
Wouldn't be our problem.
it's not our problem then? Okay.
And I think there is a drive that goes through there that goes up to the house as it is already, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a private access thing, and if somebody sold somebody a landlocked property that broke off of their own property, there's a body of law that says that they have to provide the access. But it'd be a lawsuit between property owners. And
So I mean, we're only, we don't have a dog in the fight.
we could if you want to, but we don't need to.
Okay, all right.
So is this a motion? I
Yeah.
make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Angela, was that you?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Cummings?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Page? Sally?
Yes.
5-0.
We are now down to old business. And we have on the agenda, there is just some continued discussion in regards to purchase versus the power purchase agreement out of this sewer plant. There was some additional information that Joe put in our packets from,
City manager of Freeport.
yeah, from Freeport. You guys should have got that in your packets. Is there any new information brought forward in regards to that, or?
Well, one thing Ray brought up that like electric rate agreement of 8.1 cents, and you're looking at 5.456 with a 3% rate increase. There's not much of a saving. I still think, I mean, buy. And you're looking at, what is it, 5.4 or 5.6, what that we're obligated by at 3% a year. Which is it, Joe? Is it what? Around 5.5 cents kilowatt hour, so you're only 2.6 cents difference at 3% a year. I mean, all the things that I've seen, 3 to 5 years we pay for, so I said buy. Still,
Put it in motion, be done with this thing, one way or another. Find out where we stand.
all right, I'll make a motion that we look at purchasing, do a request for proposals for purchasing a solar plant to supplement the sewer plant.
I'll second.
Cummings?
No.
Brett?
Yes.
Page?
No.
Sally?
Yes.
Painter?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
So I will get a document together that I can send out to different providers and they can give you their best offers. So what day is it? So we're probably looking at, I would say, at least a 30-day bid process. So
Will those be sealed bids?
yeah. Yeah, and we'll open it up and I'll figure out a way to try to structure it to where we can have side by side comparisons, but what I'm saying is I wouldn't expect this until May probably.
Yep.
So, okay.
Next item on old business is, any further budget discussion. We've had quite a bit of that budget discussion already, in regards to the parks and recreation programs. Joe and I will be sitting down, going over, a draft of what he's prepared for the budget. If you have any other items that you see maintenance wise or whatever throughout the community, be sure that you get those into Joe so that we can have all that to look at when we're ready to knock out budget. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Okay, Joe, do you have anything to add for updates?
No, Jim Arndt will be here probably either next meeting or the first meeting in April, just to give an update and have a conversation with you. But other than that, that's what I've got.
Mark, do you have anything?
I do not.
Tiffany?
Nope.
Public Works will have their report in our next packet as far as any updates that they have as far as projects they've been working on. I do not have any updates, anything that I can put up here. If I am, I'm forgetting it. So anyway, so I have nothing new to update trustees.
You know, I just have a question about, do you know if the public works went out and put some sort of temporary solution at the place at the park where like the kid that was here, the scout or whoever said that.
They have to modify the slide to get it to where it'll fit, because apparently the slides are different now than whenever those were put in. And my understanding was they were gonna put some type of board up over that entrance.
That's what I meant, just something temporary.
I haven't been by there this week to look at it, but I know that they have to figure out a way to modify the slide to where it connects in there, but I'll follow up on that and see where they are with that.
Any other questions, trustees? So, all right, if not. Anyone want to make questions?
Second.